When it comes to Pokemon, everyone seems to have opinions on which generations they think are good or bad, but it's hard not to at least acknowledge that for the past 2 decades, Gen 3 has remained an especially strong one. Sorry IGN. If you've seen my content before, you know that I usually preface a video by calling a game broken, but in the case of Pokemon Emerald, I don't think I've ever covered a game that has been reverse engineered to the degree that this game has. Arbitrary code execution has been possible in Emerald for the last 10 years, but as of 2025, it's been perfected to an exact science. Would you like to have infinite items? Spawn starters from other regions? Encounter mythicals? How about change Pokemon you already own into shinies without altering their stats or making them illegal? These sound like GameShark or Action Replay codes, but no. All you need to perform what I'm going to teach in this video is a Pokemon Emerald cartridge and 0 outside tools. Oh, and yeah, they work on emulator too. This is going to be a big one, so get comfortable. It's time to break Pokemon Emerald. Funding for this video was provided by NordVPN. Listen, I know I don't have to tell you what a VPN is or what it's used for. You already know they can let you proxy into a different part of the world to access content that is only available in certain regions, or access content restricted by your local government or institutions. Something that is unfortunately becoming ever more common as more jurisdictions are opting into requiring ID verification to browse the internet. Which, don't give random websites your ID, by the way. It's like these people want to speedrun the T-app. NordVPN allows you to bypass these ID checks by glitching the websites you visit into thinking you live in a different part of the world, which is not only a good thing for personal privacy and safety, but is also good for the preservation of information and the accessibility of education all over the globe. I tend to believe the internet should be equally accessible to everyone, regardless of where you live. Hot take, I know. And so does Nord, which is why I'm happy to partner with them. Go to nordvpn.com/phobia to get 4 bonus months of coverage when you sign up, with a 30-day money-back guarantee in case you change your mind. And of course, a big thank you to NordVPN for helping to make this glitch video possible. Keep up the good work. First things first, in order to make use of Ace, and by extension the most powerful glitches available, we need to first finish the game. You know, that sounds a bit backwards now that I say it out loud. This is not a glitch video on Ruby or Sapphire, we're talking about Emerald exclusively. And the reason for that is that Emerald has something that no other Generation 3 games have. The Battle Frontier. If you've never heard of this, it's essentially Pokemon DLC before Pokemon DLC. The Battle Frontier is a physical location in Emerald that you unlock after defeating the Elite Four and Champion, and serves as additional post-game content for Generation 3. It contains 7 different buildings with 7 different battling mechanics, and is really quite experimental and unique for the Pokemon franchise. Now to be clear, this video is not about the Battle Frontier, and in fact, we won't even be spending much time there, but we do need to at least access it in order to set up the Ace trigger. So yeah, completing the main story in this game is going to be required in this video in order to do the coolest glitches. But don't worry, I'll have some fun non-Ace stuff to show off along the way as well. We hop out of the moving truck, go talk to May in her house, and hear her say, "Oh no, I was supposed to help my dad catch some wild Pokemon," and then watch her immediately get on her computer to play The Sims. Oh, wait, sorry. This was 2005. I mean to play The Sims. Back outside, we encounter Professor Birch and select our starter. Normally, this would be a major decision that would impact the composition of our party for the entire playthrough, but later on, we're going to use glitches to get all 3 starters anyway, so just pick whichever one you like best without fear of missing out on the other 2. Next, we proceed to Petalburg and talk to our father Norman before meeting Wally and escorting him into the grass to catch his Ralts. Funny thing about this encounter, by the way, Wally is scripted to always tackle twice before throwing a Pokeball, and the wild Ralts will only know Growl at this level. But if the Zigzagoon the game generates for Wally has an especially high attack stat, and the wild Ralts he encounters has an especially low defense stat, it's actually possible for him to accidentally KO the Ralts and never get the opportunity to throw a Pokeball in the first place. At which point the battle ends, and the same dialogue plays as if he caught it, so despite looking a bit silly, the outcome is the same regardless. There's no real reliable way to trigger this glitch aside from reloading and trying over and over, but if you'd like to see this happen in your game for yourself, good luck. The chance of rolling the required stat combination for this to occur is actually less likely than the chance of the Ralts Wally encounters being shiny.
Are you kidding me? He found a shiny Ralts!
Before leaving this route, we also catch a Ralts for ourselves, not to use, but as a glitch set up for later. In fact, it has to remain a Ralts, so rather than adding it to the party, we stick it in the PC to make sure it doesn't evolve. Next, I catch a second Ralts to actually keep and use in the party. This second one isn't required, but we do need to build a party of some sort, and I just personally like Gardevoir. Wait, not like that, not like that! Next we do some stuff with Team Aqua in Petalburg Woods. Yawn, we've all played this game before. Head into Rustboro and defeat Roxanne for the Stone Badge. 1 down, 7 to go. When we leave the gym, we have another Team Aqua encounter and save Mr. Briney's Wingull, as well as collect the stolen Devon goods to return to the Devon Court President. Not only is this a required step in order to progress the game's story, but we'll need to return to talk to the President later in order to set up future glitches, so this is especially important in our playthrough. With that done, we cash in our brownie points with Briney to borrow his boat and reach Dewford, where we challenge and defeat Brawly for the Knuckle Badge. That makes 2, 6 remaining. Before leaving Dewford, we collect the Old Rod and use it to catch a Magikarp to ultimately evolve into Gyarados, so we'll have a way to navigate water. Next we find Steven in Dewford Cave in order to deliver a letter on behalf of the Devon Court President, then sail to Slateport to deliver the Devon goods on behalf of the Devon Court President, because apparently all we do is run errands for Corpos now. This game is getting too close to real life, I'm going to crash out. But before that happens, Archie, the leader of Team Aqua, shows up and calls all his employees simps. That's not an edit, by the way, he really says that. With that, we make our way to Mauville and battle Watson for our third badge, the Dynamo Badge. 5 left. Before leaving the city, we go west to Route 117 to catch a Volbeat, which is actually possible to encounter in Emerald version, it's just an extremely rare 1% spawn. Much like the Ralts we caught before, we need to put this Pokemon in the PC for now, but since Volbeat can't evolve, there's no risk of accidentally ruining it for its intended purpose later. Also, I know you're already deep into this video and have only seen one glitch so far, but a lot of this stuff just takes a lot of prep, so bear with me, the cool glitches are coming.
But you said they were on their way like 3 hours ago! If I don't get pizza soon, I'm going to pass out!
Next we head north through Fall Arbor Town to catch a Skarmory in order to have a flying Pokemon, then pass through Meteor Falls to have our first encounter with Team Magma and its leader, Maxie. Maxie's trying to force the volcano in Hoenn to erupt because he thinks it will get views on TikTok, so now we have to ride the cable car to the crater of the volcano to fight him before he becomes the next Charlie D'Amelio. With climate disaster delayed for another day, we can finally reach Lava Ridge Town and battle Flannery for the Heat Badge. 4 down, 4 to go. After collecting the Heat Badge, we can return to Petalburg to challenge Norman. But before we do so, check this out. If we return to Old L Town, there will be a Pokemart worker standing to the left of this house. When we talk to him, he leads us upwards by 7 tiles to the Pokemart and then gives us a potion. Or at least, he's supposed to. If there are at least 30 different items in the first tab of our bag when we talk to this NPC, and none of those items are potions, there will be no room to hold the potion when he offers it to us. When that happens, the game will not remove the flag for this NPC event, but also knows that it's already been triggered once. So if at this point we walk to the north just enough to trigger the transition to a new route, then back down again, but not so far north as to unload the NPC, he will remain in the position near the mart, but the game will now try to play the NPC event in full when we talk to him. In other words, he will lead us to the north 7 more tiles, through the wall of the Pokemart, and into the trees. At this point, we are obviously out of bounds, and if we had been led even 1 more tile to the north, this would be a soft lock, since these tree tiles are not walkable in any direction. Thankfully, we can escape by walking down 1 tile, since there's an empty tile to the south, but then we'll be unable to enter the trees again to continue the loop with the NPC further. This is purely a graphical glitch with no real advantage, but could be fun to save your game at this point in the trees on official hardware just to get someone's reaction. Plus, this is one of the few no-clip glitches that can be executed on any Gen 3 Hoenn game. It works on every copy of Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald, and in every region. Alright, back on track. We challenge and defeat Norman for the Balance Badge, placing us over halfway through the game, then collect the HM for Surf from Wally's father in order to proceed ahead. Surfing from Mauville allows us to reach Route 119, and after a brief hang-up with Team Aqua at the Weather Institute, we're given the gift Pokemon, Castform. Adding this Pokemon to our arsenal is extremely important because it allows us to do with Castform what every experienced player should. Next we enter Fortree City and defeat Winona not only for the Feather Badge, but also for the ability to fast travel using Fly. 2 badges left. From here we make our way southeast to reach Lily Cove, where we can't proceed further until we surf to the south to climb Mount Pyre. While we're here, we catch a Shuppet, the final Pokemon we need to throw in the PC for later for our Ace setup. At the peak, we again battle Archie to make Team Aqua run away, and then collect the Magma emblem from this old lady. This grants access to the Team Magma hideout at the volcano. There's not much to this place, and we meet Maxie at the end, who awakens Groudon, something that I'm sure won't have consequences later. At this point, we can visit the shipyard at Slateport to see Team Aqua steal a submarine from Captain Stern. This opens up the Team Aqua hideout in the north of Lily Cove, which, much like the Team Magma hideout, is relatively short, but this is also the location where the player finds the game's one and only freely given Master Ball. We want to make sure to pick this up, so that we can duplicate infinite copies later on. Next we take the path to the east of Lily Cove, allowing us to surf to Moss Deep to battle Tate and Liza for the Mine Badge. Only one left. We then find Steven at the Moss Deep Space Center, and help him prevent Team Magma from stealing literal rocket fuel.
Jesus Christ!
As a reward for our help, Steven gives us the HM for Dive. With the ability to explore underwater, we track down Team Aqua and the stolen submarine to an area known as Seafloor Cavern. We need to complete this dungeon in order to proceed on with the story, but we can perform another minor glitch here as well. In Hoenn, you can dive freely on any tile with dark blue water like this, and once you're underwater, you can resurface at any time by pressing B. If we specifically dive on this route, south of Moss Deep, we find the Seafloor Cavern a few tiles up and to the left. The entrance to this underwater cave works just like any cave entrance does on the mainland, meaning that physically stepping onto it triggers a new area to load. But what makes this particular cave unique isn't even anything related to the cave itself. It's what's found above it. Because it isn't water tiles on the surface above this cave, it's a boulder.
It's not just a boulder! It's a rock!
Obviously, this big rock was never meant to be a place the player should stand. But when you enter a cave entrance, there is exactly one frame in which the player is standing inside the entrance tile and before the area transition has occurred. So we can swim into the entrance of Seafloor Cavern, and then press B, frame perfectly, on the exact frame the player character stops moving, to trigger the pop-up asking if we want to resurface. Since we are now underneath the rock above us, when we resurface, we will appear inside of the rock, no longer riding on our surfing Pokemon, since the tile we're standing on is not a water tile. Now we can move south one tile to escape the rock, and because it was never meant to be possible to stand there in the first place, the game doesn't bother to check to see if we should be surfing. Now we can Chris Angel Mind Freak anywhere we want in the ocean, walking on water. You can fight trainers, encounter wild Pokemon, even ride your bike while cosplaying Jesus, and none of those things will break the glitch. Weirdly, you can't use a fishing rod while walking on water, nor can you walk back onto land, so the only way to turn the glitch off is to find a deep section of the water again to dive and resurface properly, or to fly or teleport to a Pokemon Center. After having our fun breaking the laws of physics, we find the stolen submarine and track down Archie, who's in the process of awakening Kyogre. And with both legendaries awake at the same time, we now have a major problem. You see, Groudon refuses to take a bath, but Kyogre thinks he's really stinky. Awkward, am I right, chat? Ugh, that is not going in the video. We serve to Setopolis to find the two legendaries fighting in the middle of the city, and Wallace the champion tells us to go find Rayquaza. In Pokemon Emerald, Sky Pillar doesn't have a cracked floor that you have to bike over on your first visit, so reaching the top is profoundly easy this time, but we will have to play the dexterity minigame with the Mach Bike when we come back later. After awakening the Green Dragon, he flies to Setopolis and tells Groudon and Kyogre to shut up and go back to sleep, meaning the climate crisis is averted and we can finally challenge Juan, the final gym leader, for the Rain Badge. That's 8 out of 8 badges. Time for the Elite Four. We scale the waterfall to Evergrande, make our way through Victory Road, and then defeat Sydney, Phoebe, Glacia, Drake, and finally, Wallace himself, to take our place as the champion of Hoenn. The game may now be finished, but we are just getting started. When we return to the Slateport shipyard as the Hoenn champion, we can now take the SS title to the Battle Frontier, meaning that we now have access to challenge the 7 Frontier Brains and their unique battle systems, but more importantly for us, we can now begin executing major glitches. So what is so special about the Battle Frontier when it comes to glitches? Oh, I'm so glad you asked. As I said at the very beginning of the video, the Battle Frontier only exists in Emerald version, and that exclusivity is also likely why this oversight was missed by the QA team at Game Freak. Whenever you initiate one of the challenges in the Frontier, an NPC usually asks you to select some sort of team, and then to save your game before the challenge begins. But in the Battle Tower specifically, we get asked to save twice, with a second yes/no prompt happening in the middle of the save process. This means that whenever we challenge the Battle Tower, we have the ability to save certain elements of the in-game save file without saving others. If we store a Pokemon in the PC and save the game with a full proper save from the pause menu, then withdraw that Pokemon from the PC, we will then be able to initiate a challenge at the Battle Tower, select a team, then the NPC will say, "Before entering a battle room, the progress must be saved. Is this okay?" We then select yes. The game will save the current Pokemon in our party, but the save will then get interrupted by the second prompt, which states, "Would you like to save the game?" If rather than making a choice here, we simply shut off the game entirely with the power switch, when we load back in, our game will be in a state where the Pokemon in our party were saved, but the Pokemon in the PC were not. That means the game remembers that we withdrew something from the PC, so it's in our party. But the save process never made it far enough to update the PC data. In other words, we just cloned a Pokemon. And for those of you playing on emulator, yes, it works the same for you too. Since everything we just did occurs on original cartridge with no outside tools, and the Pokemon that can be cloned with this glitch are all legitimate, originating from authentic hardware, there is no way for Nintendo to detect these Pokemon as being illegal. A cloned Pokemon is perfectly identical to its original copy in every way, and can therefore be transferred up through succeeding generations, all the way to Pokemon Home and modern Pokemon games, all while keeping its legitimacy. Check it out. This is an authentic shiny Charizard that I soft reset for on my copy of Fire Red. Using the Battle Tower saving glitch to clone it as many times as I want, I can now transfer those clones upward through Pokemon Bank and into Pokemon Home in order to have infinite shiny Charizards in every future Pokemon game, forever. Now to be clear, shutting off the power to a console during a save process always has the ability to corrupt your save data, so normally I would not advise this, but this is a special case. The oversight that occurs with the Battle Tower, in which we get asked if we want to save the game twice, pauses the saving process, meaning that for Pokemon Emerald, in this one instance, there's no risk. As long as you see the yes/no prompt on screen when you shut off the power, you will never corrupt your save data, because the game is never saving while that prompt is on screen. If you're really paranoid about it, on physical hardware you can use the soft reset button combination of A, B, select, and start all at the same time, instead of flipping the power switch. The console is smart enough to know that it shouldn't reset itself while save data is being written, so you'll see that even when I intentionally mistime the button combo to occur while the game's saving, it waits for the process to complete before actually resetting. Meaning that it's impossible to corrupt your save data through soft resetting. Even if you do it in the middle of a save, soft resetting is always safe. With the ability to play God, it's time to finally make use of those 3 Pokemon we caught earlier that have been sitting idle in the PC. First, we fly back to Rustboro and talk to the president of Devoncorp to collect the experience share, then head into this building to the right of the gym. Here we can perform an in-game trade with this NPC named Kobe. That's not a joke or anything, that's really his name. Trading the Ralts we caught at the beginning of the video for a C-Dot named Dots. Next we fly to Fortree City and perform another in-game trade with this NPC in the building north of the Pokemon Center, exchanging the Volbeat we caught earlier for a Plusle named Pluses. After finishing this trade, we make our way west to the berry patch just outside the city in order to pick the Pomegg berries found here. The final step is to fly to Lily Cove, where we have the move deleter delete all of Plusle's moves so that only Growl remains. Then go to the Lily Cove department store and buy several HP ups. We now have everything we need. Let's talk about how to execute Ace. In order to trigger the most powerful glitches in Pokemon Emerald, we need to intentionally corrupt the game's memory in a very controlled and calculated way. The problem with this is we're playing a Pokemon game. Almost everything in this game is randomly generated, from the stats of your starter all the way down to your trainer ID and secret ID, the latter of which we have no way of even calculating without outside tools. So we first need to create a control so that we know what numbers we're working with. That's where Dots the C-Dot and Pluses the Plusle come in. Unlike every other method of obtaining Pokemon in this game, in-game trades from NPCs always have exact fixed stats. No matter what file you're playing on, the dots and pluses you trade for in your game will be perfectly identical to the dots and pluses I trade for in mine. Knowing that, we can create a memory corruption setup that works reliably, and here's the key, works the same for everyone. But unfortunately, the stats of Dots, while close, aren't exactly what we need. We need to train him a little first, and boy do I mean a little. This is the part you are most likely to mess up, so watch this very carefully, multiple times if you need to, and don't do anything in your own game until you fully understand the entire process. Mess this up, and you will likely have to start a new save file to get a fresh, unmodified Dots to try again. I'm sure most of you watching know this already, but a Pokemon's stats are broken into two different categories. Individual values, shortened to IVs, which represent unchangeable qualities assigned to that Pokemon when it was originally generated, and effort values, shortened to EVs, which represent changeable qualities the Pokemon gain through training or vitamins. The issue is there's no way to check these two values independently. If you open a Pokemon summary screen and check their stats, the numbers you see are the result of an algorithm combining the Pokemon's IVs and EVs together, modifying those numbers by the Pokemon's level, and doing a whole lot of rounding. I say all that to say, we need to train our Dots so specifically as to change the EVs that make up half of its stats, but it will look like nothing is changing from the summary screen. We have to keep track of it in our heads. Right now, Dots has 0 EVs in everything because he's never been in a battle. We need to give him exactly 17 HP EVs and 6 attack EVs. We can skip ahead a bit by first giving him a single HP up, which grants 10 EVs and HP. And while we could switch train Dots to gain the remaining EVs, the experience share will make this process a lot easier. Give Dots the EXP share to hold, and then whenever another Pokemon in your party gets a kill, both it and Dots will get an EV point, based on the Pokemon species. In order to give Dots the proper EV values, we need to give him 1 HP up, then give him the EXP share, and then KO exactly 7 Whismur, exactly 6 Poochyena, and nothing else. Also, not that I think this will come up for most of you, but Dots holding the Macho Brace or having Pokerus will double the rate at which he gains EVs, so we want to make sure neither of those are anywhere close to him, or the numbers we're calculating will get all screwed up. After giving Dots the single HP up, we fly to Verdanturf to KO 7 Whismur, carefully counting as we go, then fly to Oldale to KO 6 Poochyena, making sure to run whenever we encounter something else. If you accidentally KO one too many, or the wrong Pokemon species, there are berries that you can feed Dots to lower his EVs back to 0, but they're really hard to come by, so don't mess up. Once you hit the proper numbers in your head, take the EXP share off of Dots and save the game. Next, we need to clone several copies of both Dots and Pluses using the Battle Tower glitch from earlier, then arrange them in the second box in the PC, alternating, and on these specific rows. This will give us the highest likelihood of the memory corruption glitch we're about to execute, giving us a favorable result. Remember, the Dots clones all need to have exactly 17 HP EVs and 6 attack EVs, and the Pluses clones all need to only know the move Growl. Beyond that, the levels don't matter. While we're in the PC, we move every Pokemon we want to keep to box 14. The glitch we're about to trigger will corrupt everything in the first few boxes of the PC, so the later the box number they're in, the safer they will be. So, how do we corrupt memory exactly? Why, with Shuppet, of course. To start off, we need to give Shuppet HP ups until it gains at least 1 HP. If it's even, keep giving it HP ups until it becomes odd. It has to be an odd number. Next, we need to let a Pokemon faint and move it to the first slot in the party, and Shuppet into the second. There should only be one other Pokemon in your party, and it should be in the third slot. Now, we encounter a wild Pokemon, and send out the Shuppet because our first Pokemon is fainted. We use the move Curse to cut Shuppet's HP in half, then run from the battle, and encounter another Pokemon. We use Curse again, having Shuppet's HP a second time, leaving it with only 1 HP, since we made sure that it had an odd HP stat. Save the game here. After this, we get in a third encounter, swap out to our third healthy Pokemon, and then run from the battle. The next step is to deposit the healthy Pokemon in box 14 in the PC to keep it safe, so that we only have a fainted Pokemon and a 1 HP Shuppet in our party. Now we can feed Shuppet one of the Palm Egg berries we picked, which reduce HP EVs by 10. Since we gave Shuppet HP ups earlier, reducing the EVs will take away points of HP from Shuppet, reducing the 1 HP it has to 0, meaning that we now have a party of all fainted Pokemon, but haven't whited out. When we encounter a wild Pokemon at this point, the game realizes that the first 2 party members are fainted, but remembers that we last switched out to a healthy Pokemon in the third slot. However, that Pokemon is in the PC now, So when it tries to send it out, this happens. This is Decamark. If you've ever seen Missing No, the glitch Pokemon from Gen 1, Decamark is essentially the same thing for Gen 3. He exists in the game file so the game doesn't crash when a Pokemon number is accidentally called that exists outside of the national dex, but he doesn't actually do anything. In fact, if we were to try to attack with him, we would instantly white out. Instead, we check our party, open the summary screen of a Pokemon, and then back out. This causes all sorts of glitchy behavior when we return to the party list, including the ability to hold up and scroll upward outside of the limits of where our party Pokemon are stored and into other elements of in-game data, corrupting it as we pass it by. We want to hold up for around 5 to 6 seconds here, at which point we will have reached the location in memory where the first few boxes of the PC are stored, passing over the arrangement of clones we have stored in box 2 with their very precisely allocated stats. Now we can back out of the party menu to return to the battle and select either fight or run to white out and return to the Pokemon Center. When we check the PC, the 2 rows of dots and pluses in box 2 will have corrupted their data into each other, mostly into bad eggs. But with any luck, at least one of them will just say egg. And when we open the summary, it will be in a nest ball and have Pokerus. This is the ideal outcome, but you're unlikely to get it on your first try. If you don't see this exact type of egg, reset to your previous save and repeat the last few steps over again. This part is expected to take a few tries, but if you keep doing it over and over and keep getting a different kind of egg that doesn't have a nest ball or doesn't have Pokerus, then chances are the EVs of your Dots clone are incorrect. In which case... The glitch we just performed is known as Glitzer Popping, discovered by the Pokemon speedrunner Worster in 2014, and if you're curious, the name means absolutely nothing. He made it up.
So, what you gonna call it?
I'm gonna call him
Glitzer Popping.
Okay, he's your baby.
We now possess the holy grail of glitches in Emerald version, and this little egg is going to be the catalyst for everything moving forward. But before hatching it, we need to do some cleanup. First, we have a ton of bad eggs, and glitchy, corrupted C-Dot and Plusle clones in our PC that we need to get rid of. Bad eggs can't be released, but we can get rid of them through what is known as the reverse cloning glitch. The name is pretty self-explanatory. We return to the Battle Tower in the Battle Frontier and perform the steps of the cloning glitch but in reverse order. That means we save the game with the things we want to delete in our party, deposit them in the PC, then talk to the NPC at the front desk, say yes to the first prompt, and soft reset on the second. When we reload, the contents of our party will have been saved, deleting the bad eggs we were holding, but not allowing the PC data to save from where we deposited them. We repeat this a few times to clear out all the bad data, so that we are left with a healthy PC, aside from the one very glitchy egg. So, what does this egg actually do? The code we've generated and forced into the shape of a Pokemon egg is a payload that upon hatching, redirects the game to the names of the boxes in your PC and tells it to run the box names as code, despite them clearly being text. That means that hatching this egg will do absolutely nothing unless we enter some hexadecimal code as the Pokemon box names in our PC. So, let's do that. Before we start, be sure to change the wallpaper of your Box 1 to something iconic so that you'll be able to recognize it as Box 1. When we change all the PC box names, it's going to be really difficult to tell which is which, and you will appreciate having the first box being visually distinct to make finding it easier. And lastly, all of the codes we'll be entering require boxes 11 through 14 to have no Pokemon in them. So be sure to move everything we put in box 14 back to box 1 at this point. We won't be doing any more memory corruption, so they should be safe from here on out. The first code we'll be entering is this, which generates a glitch Pokemon, specifically species 0x410E, commonly referred to as Stable Ace. Generating this will allow us to run PC codes much faster and not rely on hatching these buggy eggs. The text you need to enter here is case sensitive, and even blank spaces count, so take your time with this. Whenever you see a square, that means a blank space needs to be entered in that slot. I just don't really have a better way to convey a blank space visually. Physical hardware and emulators sometimes execute this text as code slightly differently. So if you're on emulator, first try the block on the left, and if that doesn't work for you, then try the block on the right instead, which has been designed with the inaccuracies of some emulators in mind. Also, I should state for the record that every code I'm going to be showing in this video is English specific. If your game is in English, regardless of region, they will work for you. But if your game is in another language, these won't work at all, just don't even try them. Once the lines of code have been entered in your PC box names, double check that everything has been typed correctly and that there are no Pokemon in boxes 11 through 14. Once you're sure, save the game, then take out the payload egg we created and walk or ride the bike until it hatches. When it does so, you'll see this glitchy animation play out, and then it will ask if you want to give your question marks a nickname. Say no, or the game will crash. Speaking of crashing, if we open our Pokemon party now, we'll see that we have a question mark here too. This thing is extremely unstable, and even looking at it will cause your game to crash. At this point, the codes we entered as the PC box names has already been executed, so this thing is purely a liability and we need to get rid of it ASAP. Switch it into the first slot in your party by moving another Pokemon into its space, then go to the PC and select Deposit. Moving your cursor over this question mark Pokemon will also cause a crash, but Deposit opens the PC with your cursor already highlighting the first Pokemon in your party. So from here, we can press A and release it to get rid of it for good and avoid a crash. As I said, the only purpose of this first code we entered was to generate a new, more stable glitch Pokemon. And if we look at box 10, slot 19 in the PC, we find him. This is species 0x410E, and he is a much more friendly question mark. Not only is it safe to move the cursor over this one, but it's designed to run our PC box names as code when we check its summary, not when it hatches from an egg. In other words, this is a glitch payload that is not only safe, it can be used over and over again, which is exactly what I plan to do with it. How about we duplicate some items now? First, deposit everything you want to duplicate into the item storage of the PC. This can be held items, Pokeballs, berries, TMs, anything you'd like to have multiple copies of. But I highly recommend you at least deposit a Master Ball and a rare candy. We'll be using a ton of those very soon. Once you have everything stored in the PC that you want to dupe, enter this code as the box names of your Pokemon storage in the PC. Once again, everything here is case sensitive, even the spaces matter, and is all exclusive to English copies of the game only. Just like before, the code on the left is for physical hardware, and if it isn't working for you on emulator, try the one on the right. Once you think you have it all typed out correctly, save the game in case of a mistake, then view the summary of our new friend, Stable Ace. There's no need to linger on the screen, the glitch will have executed immediately, assuming the codes were typed out correctly. So to verify if it worked, we check the items in the PC now. Every item we deposited now shows $80 as the quantity stored, which, if you're curious, is actually over 65,000. If somehow even this isn't enough for you, simply open the summary of the glitch Pokemon again, and it will run the code again, setting the quantity back to $80 and allowing you to draw 65,000 all over again. Now that we have infinite items, why not put them to use? And I should clarify, the first code we entered that generated the Stable Ace Pokemon didn't just do that. It also gave us access to a legendary. If we go upstairs in a Pokemon Center, you'll see that a new NPC has been generated behind the desk on the left. And when we talk to him, he gives us the Eon Ticket. The Eon Ticket allows us to sail from Lily Cove to a new location called Southern Island, where we find either Latios or Latias as a static encounter. Considering that we have unlimited Master Balls, it's not a particularly challenging catch, and since we have unlimited rare candies, there's no reason not to level it to 100 right away. Well, if we can no longer fail to make a catch, I think it's time to go legendary hunting. If we return to Sky Pillar, we can now cross over the crumbling floors with a Mach Bike to reach the top, encounter Rayquaza, and immediately catch it with yet another Master Ball. Then just like before, pump it full of rare candies for an instantly max level Legendary Dragon. We could go get Groudon and Kyogre next, but I actually have a more impressive legendary duo in mind. There's a series of key items present on the Pokemon Emerald cartridge that can only be obtained through Mystery Gift. Since Generation 3 has no internet connectivity, those items could only be obtained by physically attending one of the rare Nintendo-sanctioned distribution events during the year of 2005, and so as a result, very few people were ever able to take advantage of them. But all the Mystery Gift events that took place at these physical in-person distributions never actually downloaded anything new to the cartridge. They just enabled items that were already present in the game files. So that means rather than relying on Nintendo to give us access to these items, we can do it ourselves with glitches. This first code enables access to the Mystic Ticket, and we need to enter these codes as our PC box names while standing specifically in the Pokemon Center in Mauville City. This set of codes works by triggering a glitch that changes the NPC dialogue of the man in the top left corner of this Pokemon Center into the text event that would have distributed the mystery gift at one of these Nintendo distributions in 2005. After entering these codes, we then check the summary of the stable ace Pokemon we generated while standing inside the Mauville Pokemon Center to have the box names executed as game code and alter the NPC's dialogue. The text change of the NPC is temporary, and is the reason we have to do this within the Pokemon Center in Mauville. Once we load a new area, this dialogue change returns to normal, so don't worry about anything in your game being permanently changed by this glitch. The Mystic Ticket is a key item that we will now always hold on this save file, and by using it, we can sail from Lily Cove Harbor to the exclusive island of Naval Rock, the location where we can catch both Ho-Oh and Lugia. They both catch instantly since we have infinite Master Balls, and both of them we take immediately to level 100 with rare candies. But Naval Rock is not the only area accessed with exclusive mystery gift tickets. Just as before, we can stand in the Mauville Pokemon Center to enter this code, which temporarily adjusts the NPC dialogue of the man in the top left, to the mystery gift event associated with Deoxys. Once these codes have been entered as the box names, we check the summary of our stable ace Pokemon to execute it, and then talk to the man in the top left to be given the Aurora ticket. This item allows us to sail from Lily Cove to Birth Island, the location of Deoxys. One more Master Ball, and a few more rare candies, and it's another member of the party. But the most interesting use of these mystery gift glitches, in my opinion, is to obtain the Old Sea Map, the item associated with Mew, and a distribution that was only ever available in Japan. That means, despite the item existing in the game files of our English copy, no player has ever authentically been able to claim it. The code this time is a bit longer, but works the same way as the last two. We enter it in the Mauville Pokemon Center, check the summary of our good friend 0x410E, and then talk to the man in the top left to be given the Old Sea Map. This time, when we take the item to Lily Cove Harbor, the captain tells us that it's too far away and refuses to take us. But then Mr. Briny shows up and tells him to do his job and sail the damn ship. Faraway Island is still small, but it's the largest of all the mystery gift areas we've seen so far, having a little maze of trees on the outside and a mass of very tall grass on the inside, where Mew attempts to hide from us. We move throughout the grass to counter Mew, throw a Master Ball, and then level it to 100 with rare candies as the new and final member of the endgame team. With a full party, you might think we're done using glitches to catch Pokemon, but I have a promise I made at the beginning of the video to keep. This code will forcibly respawn Professor Birch's bag on the ground of Route 101, so after entering it as our PC box names, we open the summary of our glitch Pokemon and close it, this time anywhere in the game we like since we're no longer relying on a specific NPC dialogue in Mauville City. Now when we return to Route 101, we find Birch's bag on the ground and can interact with it to trigger the event that allows us to choose our starter, as though it was the beginning of the game, but without resetting our story progress. After we make our choice, the game proceeds as normal with the event. We get a wild encounter with a Zigzagoon, and we send out... Oh. Well, that's different. But as strange as a Rayquaza battling a level 2 Zigzagoon may seem, this is actually intended behavior. The way this event normally works behind the scenes is that after we make our choice, it adds our starter to the party, triggers an encounter with a wild Zigzagoon, and then sends out the Pokemon that's in our slot 1. Rayquaza is the Pokemon currently in our slot 1, and our party's full, so it sends the starter to the PC, exactly as it would have when we obtain a new Pokemon with a full party. We then get sent to Professor Birch's lab, and get the opportunity to nickname Rayquaza. Alright, well that's funny. But after we leave the lab, we see that nothing in the game's story has been disrupted. We still have all our badges, and are still the champion. Professor Birch's bag is now gone from Route 101, but we can respawn it over and over again by checking the summary of 0x410E. Remember, this glitch Pokemon simply runs as code whatever text are entered in the Pokemon box names in the PC. As long as you don't change that text, you can always repeat a glitch over and over again by simply opening the summary again. This means that not only can we get all 3 Hoenn starters on one cartridge, but also as many copies of them as we like. And with that being the case, the Pokemon Emerald superfans watching may already be anticipating what I'm going to say next. Treecko, Torchic, and Mudkip are not the only starters obtainable in Pokemon Emerald. If you manage to catch every Pokemon in the Hoenn Pokédex, Professor Birch will offer a single Johto starter as your reward. And since this event already exists in the game, we can enter a code to not only claim the reward right now, but claim all 3. Just like the previous code, this one can be triggered anywhere, and upon the next visit to Birch's lab, he will offer Chikorita, Totodile, or Cyndaquil. We make our choice, then open the summary of the glitch Pokemon to trigger the event again, to go claim another, then a third time to claim the last one. As cool as it is to have 6 different starter Pokemon on one game file, we still haven't talked about my favorite glitch in Pokemon Emerald. And this one might be a bit controversial, because it makes any Pokemon shiny. Firstly, if your glitch Pokemon is still in box 10 slot 19, move it out of that space and into any other location. Another slot in the PC, in your party, doesn't matter, we just need box 10 slot 19 to be free. Next, we enter this code into the PC box names, which requires either physical hardware or GBA BIOS emulation. I'm not going to say too much about this because YouTube won't like it, but there is a particular file that you need to set this up, and there is a certain archive on the internet where you can download it. This file is responsible for triggering the GBA splash screen when you start the game, and the splash screen is required for this next code to work. But obviously, none of this is necessary on legit hardware since they all support the splash screen natively. With the codes entered, we place a Pokemon in the slot where the glitch Pokemon used to be, box 10 slot 19, then open the summary of the glitch Pokemon to execute the code, which forcibly changes any Pokemon currently in box 10 slot 19 into becoming permanently shiny. Unlike cheats or third-party tools like Action Replay, this glitch calculates a new, authentic PID for the Pokemon based on the secret ID of your save file, making it genuinely shiny and legal for transferring to other games of the Pokemon franchise without changing its nature or modifying stats. This glitch can be executed over and over again by placing new Pokemon in box 10 slot 19 and opening the summary screen of the glitch Pokemon each time. So by using it, we can convert our entire party and the starters we generated all into permanent, legitimate shinies for Pokemon Emerald, as well as any other future games. The existence of this glitch will forever impact the availability of Gen 3 shinies in every future Pokemon game, for as long as Game Freak supports transferring from Pokemon Bank to Pokemon Home. And before we finish this video, I should state for the record that there are PC box name codes you can use to generate any Pokemon you want and force it to appear as a wild encounter. But unlike everything I've shown you in this video so far, these Pokemon will be illegal since they will be found in incorrect locations. If you use glitch codes to generate the Pokemon outright, most software will detect it as being illegal and not allow it to leave the game. That's what's so exciting about using glitches to generate events instead of using glitches to generate the Pokemon themselves. The Rayquaza, Latios, Ho-Oh, Lugia, Deoxys, Mew, Hoenn starters, and Johto starters we call it, were all obtained in their normal locations by completing their intended events. That means they are fully authentic Pokemon and can be transferred upward and used in any future games you like, despite the fact that we even force them to be shiny. We may have already defeated the Elite Four and become the champion, but before ending this video, there's one other challenge I think we should overcome. As a callback to the post-game battle with Red in Gen 2, Steven is waiting for us above the waterfall in Meteor Falls, with a team in the 70s. Unfortunately for him, a team of full shiny legendaries doesn't have much trouble. In fact, he doesn't KO a single one. And with that, I'm classifying Pokemon Emerald as successfully broken. Thank you to those of you that made it this far. Like the video if you liked it, dislike it if you didn't. Also big thank you to Sleipnir, the original discoverer of many of these glitch codes, and Metrich, who optimized them to be short enough to type in the limited available PC boxes. I've linked the full code database in the video description if you want to check the others out, and if you need codes for non-English copies of Emerald, you can find those there as well. This is my first glitch video on any Pokemon game, and it's a bit experimental for this channel, so let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me cover other Pokemon games as well. Who knows, maybe Sinnoh will be next. Subscribe and find out.